There's two.
A very good morning to everybody. My name is Nicolette Mashile. I'm also known as the Financial Bunny. I'm the founder of Financial Fitness Bunnies, a best-selling author and a consumer advisory panel member at the FSCA. And we would like to welcome you to this finance webinar, of course, brought to you by Proudly South African. Now, it's under the theme Unlocking Opportunities, Financial and Non-Financial Benefits for Youth in Businesses. And I'd like you to take a moment and think about your own business as a young person in South Africa, especially in Youth Month, and think about, do you have the conducive environment for you to be able to run a business in South Africa? But most importantly, have you been able to find the opportunities to propel business? One of the things that is very that we've got a couple of social and energy crisis, we have market access to funding, and in some instances, depending on which corner of South Africa you are sitting in, there may be access to information that is also a challenge. However, Proudly South African has brought a group of experts into the room today in this webinar to be able to share opportunities, both financial and non-financial, for you to be able to benefit yourself as an individual, but of course also your business. Now, research has shown that entrepreneurship, especially and particularly youth entrepreneurship, can propel unemployment in the country. It can help alleviate that issue. So that's why we're here today, especially in Youth Month, because we've seen in a country like ours that the youth unemployment rate is quite high. Let's maybe talk a little bit about a South African youth. We are very much innovative. We are tech savvy. We have growing support networks. We've got access to education. We've got access to government and private sector initiatives. We also have global connectivity. This means that we are in a great space to be able to start youth businesses. However, on the other side, we also do have a couple of weaknesses. We know that there's regulatory and policy challenges that sometimes get in the way of running a business. Access to finance, as already mentioned, network deficiencies, high competition in some instances, and infrastructure issues. But however, there are opportunities. There's government support, there's private sector support. We have a digital economy that is robust for our businesses to be able to thrive. Global markets, partnerships, collaboration, youth-focused programs. However, there are some threats that we also need to consider, and that is economic instability. We've seen the growth of our economy in the country really slagging. And I can tell you that youth in business is one way for us to be able to do that. We've got infrastructure deficiencies and political instability. This is not going to hinder us. And that's why I say today, we've got great experts that are going to help us identify some of those opportunities, whether financial or non-financial. If you are watching on this webinar, we do urge you to share some nuggets from our experts and use the hashtag buy local to create jobs and hashtag youth in business. But I cannot start this webinar without telling you who our main partner is. It is Proudly South African. Now, Proudly South African is established in 2001 following the 1998 Presidential Job Summit led by former President Nelson Mandela in the country's official Buy Local advocacy campaign. It aligns with government efforts to combat poverty, inequality, and unemployment. This membership-based organization allows only audited and approved companies to carry its logo, ensuring that products or services meet local content and quality standards. Proudly South African collaborates with public and private sectors to promote local procurement and encourage consumers to prioritize local products. Of course, their main key is buy local to create jobs. And I'm asking you, as you are sitting there watching this webinar, are you Proudly South African? Are you wearing Proudly South African? Do you use Proudly South African products and services? But I want to kickstart this session with Janine van Straten, who is the Executive of Strategy, Stakeholder Relations, and Legal at Proudly South African, to give us an overview, also their advocacy message of buying local to create those jobs. Now, Janine van Straten brings extensive experience in stakeholder relations and professional communications from her roles as key client services manager and head of a broadcasting at Classic FM. This is a previous position. With a law and politics degree from Rand Afrikaans University in 2003 and an MBA candidacy at Henley Business School, she's passionate about social integration and growing the proudly South African membership. Van Straten values creativity, drawing from her background as a violinist, and emphasizes education and continuous personal development. Her previous role as manager of the I Am Constitution campaign at the Ichovitz Family Foundation highlighted the importance of unity, a lesson she aims to share with member companies to foster collective economic growth. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me see all of the responses because we want to have an engaging session. Please let's welcome Janine van Straten.
Hi, Nicolette, and good morning, everybody joining the call today. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction to not only the Proudly South African campaign, but to the webinar this morning. We really are looking forward to spending the next hour and a half or 2 hours with you today. And as Nicolette had said, please do share with us any queries that you might have in the Q&A section. And I look forward to presenting to you what the campaign stands for, what we've been up to these last 20-something years, and also how you can get involved and how ultimately you can benefit from the Buy Local campaign. I'm going to share my screen with you now, and then let me see, go. I'm going to stop my video while I present, and there we go. That should be showcasing if there is any delay or so. I'll count on the team letting me know that there is a glitch in the presentation, but we've tested it and all should be working today. So it is Youth Month. I mean, we're almost in the middle of the month. Comrades is over. We're looking forward to this weekend and noticing and celebrating Youth Month in all its glory. And really, this is one of the many events that we're hosting and participating in to really access and assist the youth as much as possible in doing business, really, and to flourish. So Proudly South African today, whilst I'm presenting to you, I would like you to think about our key role, and that being access to markets. So everything I am sharing with you today must be understood from that basis. So the country is facing a triple challenge, and Nicolette's alluded you to this already, but it's inequality, unemployment, and poverty. And Proudly SA was established back in 2001 to address the triple challenge the country is facing, but particularly unemployment. If you alleviate unemployment, in our view, it could really address poverty and inequality in the same breath. If you look at the shoes on the left-hand side, I mean, if you have the means to buy the shiny pair of shoes, it's because you have a job, because you have finances coming in. So if you think about why is there a need for a Buy Local campaign? Why is Proudly South African existing? So back in 1999, the country, and we use this example, the furniture sector, as a good example. It's representative of what the country has been going through when we had opened up our floodgates to imports. So you'll see that I'm using furniture now, it's cross-cutting to various other sectors, but it is representative of what the manufacturing in the country has gone through. So in 1999, we had 3,500 plants. Then we did open up the floodgates to receive imports. We're a signatory of the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and we were welcoming other countries to do business with us, to send us their goods so that our local people can buy, as well as then similarly, then we also were meant to export our goods so that the other countries can enjoy South African and Proudly South African goods. So in 1999, we had 3,500 plants. Fast forward 20 years, that has reduced to 1,100 plants. And because of the closure of these businesses, the number of employees in the sector has also been affected. So you're looking at a furniture sector having 50,000 direct jobs. So that means that they were employed by the factories themselves, by the businesses making the products themselves. So 50,000 jobs were created. And in 2020, that halved to 25,000. So we all know that often one salary looks after a whole household of people, more than five in some instances. And so if you can imagine 25,000, at least minimum households were affected with the reduction of the furniture sector itself. So for us, it is largely due to the country importing and we buying. That is really the cause. So because the factory's closed, if you look at furniture, the value chain is immense. You're looking at if you're looking at a couch, for instance, there will be textiles, possibly even leather. You'll have the use of wood, you'll have the use of steel, glue, etc., etc. The parts are there. There's quite plentiful if you look at a furniture piece. So if one factory shuts down, the repercussions is that it spills over to other factories because if they're no longer getting orders, the chances are quite rife that they would then have to close down their business. So in essence, this whole sector suffered because they did not get orders, people did not buy from them. So that is in essence why we exist to bring this education to the public, to the private sector, as well as to the private sector and the public sector, as well as consumers. And so Proudly South African itself, it's a buy local campaign. And it's not just special for South Africa. Um, there are campaigns, countries throughout the world have their own campaigns. And it's always interesting to note that even the countries that are stronger than us, economically speaking, they also have their own buy local campaigns that are running. So it gives us even more reason to really take heed of what our call to action is today. So USA has legislation in place. They've got a American made legislation. UK has got Keep It Local UK. Philippines have their own, as well as a lot of countries in Africa, which we have consulted to assist them in their own buy local initiatives. Um, there's always a wonderful example looking at the US. They are very patriotic. If you've watched the movies or have been there, you'll see their flag um, outside most of the houses. But you'll notice that the Buy American Act was established back in 1933 and has then since been strengthened up until Biden's presidency, when he requested that his government strengthen the work that they're doing in terms of supporting their own. So it really is a wonderful example to our country that even though the US is economically stronger than us, they also pushing the buy local narrative. And I think it's something great that an example that we should follow. A big part of what we do is also educating, as I've mentioned, educating on the importance of localization. So I know our time is limited. I'm going to really just list them. It's to retain and create jobs. I had mentioned the furniture example. People were no longer buying from certain factories; they had to close down, and jobs were lost. So if you focus on localization, you can retain and create jobs. You're looking at skills development, economic development, empowerment, improving on living standards, infrastructure development, and of course, increasing the GDP. Our mandate is really to educate any buyer out there. So you might be working for a corporate today if you're lucky, or if you're an entrepreneur, if you've got a budding business, you're part of the private sector, but in your personal capacity, you're also a consumer. You also have to buy to live. You have to buy clothing, food, etc. So you're also a buyer in your personal capacity as well as that for your business. And then also for the public sector, our colleagues are working in the public sector. They also buyers in their personal capacity, So absolutely any buyer or any person having an influence in buying is really our target market. So it's an array of buyers that we focus on to educate them to buy local. But what we also do is we guide them on where to find locally made products. And that really is a big part of our work. Just to give you a sense of where we belong, we were formed by NEDLAC at the 1998 the inaugural presidential job summit that was spearheaded by Madiba. It was his wish that Proudly South African exists. And on our board, we've got players from the public sector, private sector through BUSA, Business Unity SA, civil society, as well as labor. So we are very much well represented in terms of our board makeup, and we have an independent chairman. So just to give you a sense of who we are a not-for-profit company, but we are working closely with the DTIC to drive reindustrialization with them. And there are certain things that we do that they don't do. For instance, that's the consumer education part, connecting our membership base then with corporate buyers, and also linking into any localization program out there, whether it be in the public sector or the private sector. Our key focus areas I'd mentioned, we influence buying in the public sector, private sector, as well as with consumers, but we also promote the accessibility of locally made products. So what that means is we know where to drive the buyers to find locally made goods. And that comes to my next slide. It is all about our membership base. So we guide all of these buyers to our membership base. If you're looking at on the left-hand side, that is representative of our logo. It's got the colors of the national flag and a big green tick. So it is a logo that is very, very well known, and that is utilized by our membership base. So either on their corporate material, on their marketing collateral, or on those products that are made locally. So any company, any individual can join Proudly South African as a member. Of course, if you're a company, we ask you, where are you buying? So if you come on board, we're asking, where are you buying your goods from? And if you are making product, we also ask, what are you utilizing to make your product? Is the raw material or other components coming from a local manufacturer, or are you importing? Now, we are very much cognizant of the fact that because a lot of factories had to close down, a lot of companies making raw material and components, are no longer existing. We have to import quite a lot still from other countries in the world. So, because of that reason, we are taking into account that even though some of it have to be imported, for us it's where the conversion is taking place. So what I'm taking you through, I'd just like to ask the events team to just for me just to mute, please, guys. If you are if you are thinking of becoming a member of Proudly South African, I'd like to take you through the vetting or the compliance criteria that we undertake with the companies coming on board. So we look at local content. So I'd mentioned we ask, where do you buy from? If you're making product, what are you utilizing to make that product? But more importantly, are you utilizing that elements you might have to import? Are you utilizing it here locally to assemble and to make the finished good here in the country? So we look at where the assembling takes place. A great example, two examples, Nestle and Hisense. They might not have been founded in South Africa. Their headquarters lie in other countries, but they have established businesses here in the country. In Nestle's case, I think it's over 120 years now. They do make so many of those well-loved products in our kitchen cupboards locally. You'll see the logo on those products made here, but they are importing maybe certain goods, but they're making it here. The factories are here. They're employing people living in the country. They're employing people here. So for us, it's very important where the assembling takes place. If you're a services business, we're just going to stick to with asking, where are you buying your goods from? Then, very importantly, we also assess quality. So the product that you are consuming that's got the logo has been through various testing processes, verification processes, etc. So we follow whatever the regulator of the industry requires. We follow their lead, and we accept all of those certificates to prove and to vet and vouch for you as our future member, that your product or your service is of a high quality and it can be trusted by those who want to buy it, etc. And that's important. The use of the logo, it's a trademarked image, as well as the phrase itself. Proudly South African is trademarked. Only members of Proudly SA may use that phrase and that logo of ours. So just keep that in mind. So it's important that we really protect our IP. We also protect and protect what it is that we're doing. So you have to be vetted in accordance with our key criteria when you do come on board. We also assess environmental standards. Are you as a business looking after the environment when you're doing business? And our membership team will assist you with that. And we also assess fair labor practices. So if when you come on board, we check your HR policy or a template of a contract of employment to make sure you adhere to our 4 key criteria. You're then eligible to become a member. We do have a small membership fee for you to pay. And then once you've been onboarded, the team will notify you. You will receive the CI manual with the logos, and also you will be introduced to the campaign and all its benefits. So that is the membership onboarding process. But I wanted to make mention of that for those of you on the call today who might want to become members. Number one. Number two, it's also for those of you who are looking to source more locally. And if you see the logo, I hope you understand what it stands for now. So we're very, very quite rigorous rather when we do our vetting processes, because we are vouching for our member companies, especially in terms of access to market opportunities that we have on offer. So if you come on board as a member, we've got an e-commerce strategy in place. We are asking e-commerce partners, and there are about 18 more of these, so it's not representative of everybody. We're asking our e-commerce partners to please enlist our member companies at a reduced rate. So the listing fee might be waived, the commission structure might be reduced, but we're also asking our partners to allow our members to utilize the logo on these sites. And we're also working with them to come up with a Proudly SA tab on the site, so that whenever we do our own consumer education campaigns or campaigns that relate to the festive season, Valentine's Day, that we always know where to guide consumers on finding locally made products and specifically our member products. So there's a lot of background work we're doing in the background to make this happen. And we've got about 20 e-commerce partners now. In terms of the work we do in the private sector, we have a market access platform. So we're in the process of loading our member companies and then finding corporate buyers to enlist on the market access platform. But I'll share more with you on that in a little bit. We also have portals on our website. We participate in expos and markets, also in trade fairs, and of course, retail lobbying. We also do a lot of B2B networking, where we take our members to the corporate buyers, or vice versa. We bring the corporate buyers to our membership base. And that was prevalent at the Buy Local Summit and Expo, our annual flagship event, taking place every year in March at Sandton Convention Center. And we organize over 400 meetings for our member companies exhibiting there, which is about 220 to buyers. And we are looking forward to celebrating successes because of that event. So even though we do host this expo, there's also an element of conferencing. There's also an element of matchmaking, as well as lots of fun activities with our members and consumers, so that we make your product and all of your endeavors known, which is what we've been able to do in terms of telling the story. So the PR and the comms part of our business is also very strong. Then we also do work in the public sector. So we monitor about 815 websites whereby our tenders are posted by the public sector. That allows us then to extract these tenders and then to send them on to our member companies, so that they can have first-hand access to tender opportunities from government. We're also doing an integration with the central supplier database. So if you want to do business with government, you must be on that database. And the local content element of our membership base is highlighted on the CSD. So it's really going to be very much worthwhile to consider becoming a member so that you can benefit from the integrations and the work we're doing with the public sector. By the way, we are going to each public sector entity. We're taking the time to contact all of them, requesting to include local content provisions in their supply chain management policies so that they can be held accountable for their actions when they do buy, that they will then be forced to buy local. If not, the Auditor General will step in. So we are really looking at ways whereby we can push any buyer to buy local and making it easy to do so. One element, I know we're running out of time, so I'll be quick. One big part of our work is we're asking the private sector, will you commit? And we've had wonderful successes in banks, schools, hospitals, automotive, retailers, and manufacturers. Companies have given us beautiful localization commitments at the Buy Local Summit and Expo. We follow them up to make sure that they are adhering to what they've promised. They could be expanding on their product base, so making more products. They could also be building new factories. If their retailers awarding more shelf space to local manufacturers, they could also be linking into ESD programs, which is also something that we are chatting about today. So it's really all encompassing whatever localization endeavor our membership base can participate in, specifically the big corporates. It really is, it does showcase how corporates want to help. And I know the Franchise Association have a big focus on employing youth, of buying from youth-owned businesses, from women-owned businesses. So there's a lot that we're doing. When you come on board as a member, we will make a note of if you are youth and you own the business, of course, so that when we do go to the private sector and they say we want to buy from your member companies that are youth-owned, we know who you are. We can present you as a company, a Proud SA member, to the corporates so that they can buy from you. Our market access platform is really a CST. It's a networking, it's a business matchmaking for our member companies with corporate buyers. But I know we're running out of time. I want to leave you with one ad. I'm going to skip the slides. I'll share my presentation with the team at Proudly SA, and you're very welcome to then go through the presentation your own time. But I want to leave you with our ad that is out in the public. If I may leave you with that, thank you very much.
There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling, day by day, the voice of the future.
When I started my business, all I wanted was to create jobs and a legacy for the next generation, because I see opportunity when others see impossibility.
It all started with a thought and then a seed in the garden, which grew into my very own farm that feeds the whole nation daily.
Cotton, silk, and a little bit of treasure, I create masterpieces that give South Africans an identity, comfort, and confidence, because when you look good, you feel good.
From the factory workers to the warehouse and then over the seas, I want to show the world what proudly South African looks like. It all started with just some ink on paper and inspiration to bring people together. With my furniture, I now help create spaces that are beautiful, comfortable, and authentic to human light and connection.
I've always been driven by curiosity. It fueled my dreams to create automobiles that accelerate our nation into greater possibilities and the beauty of the unknown.
I was born into a rainbow nation. My life has been full of colors and mixed flavors. And when I started my bakery, I wanted to share that joy with the world and with South Africans in particular.
All I ever dreamt of was to be a bird and fly high. And now I have the wings to help others fulfill their dreams of flying high too.
But it can only be a dream until you make it a reality. All they need is your faith, your trust, your loyalty, your appreciation.
And most importantly,
your support.
Because supporting local businesses
helps create jobs
and secures our future.
South Africa, their future is in your hands. So what are you going to do about it? Be proudly South African. Buy local to create jobs. There's a
Before I end, I just want to showcase the membership fee in place. So for any budding entrepreneur out there, membership fee, if you are turning over less than 5 million rand, your membership fee is only 500 rand per annum. So I do hope that you will join the campaign, and we look forward to welcoming you on board as a member shortly.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Janine. And I think the message is loud and clear. Buy local to create jobs. I must tell you, I'm a frequent user of Zulzi, and every time I sit on Zulzi, I'm like, wow, how do I get my products onto Zulzi and use that platform as an e-commerce platform? And I'm actually really excited because what you've just mentioned to us is basically a cheat, if I may call it that, a catalyst to access to market, because the partnership that you guys have with, you know, your e-commerce platforms, private sector and government, basically means that by the time I, as a South African, a proudly South African entrepreneur, go onto them and say, hi, I want to be a partner, or hi, I'm looking for an investor, or hi, I'm looking for funding, I know and they know I'm already vetted by Proudly South African. I think that is absolutely fantastic. But there's also a key that Janine made that is absolutely important for all of us. We need to create jobs. And youth in business is one way of doing so. The mere fact that one salary that can be created through a job can support up to 5 people, that is incredible. That is how we start breaking down poverty in this country. But of course, also the other benefits of, you know, retaining and creating jobs in South Africa is increasing the GDP. It's increasing the local economy and really growing it, because we've seen that the stagnancy of the economy is creating quite big challenges for South Africans. So thank you very much to Janine for that. And I mean, 500 Rand, if you're making less than 5 million, that's like a drop in the ocean. But think about a drop in the ocean and what it is able to do. The ripple effect that it can do for your SME is absolutely fantastic. So I urge every single one of you, if you are on this webinar right now and you have not registered with Proudly South African, to do so, because the benefits really are absolutely fantastic. And with that said, I want to remind you that if you are going to be sharing any nuggets with us, please do use our hashtags. It is hashtag buy local to create jobs. And the second one is hashtag youth in a business. And remember, we are streaming on all our Proudly South African social media channels. So if you have questions, comments, please drop them there. We'll make sure that the team facilitates that we bring them back into the webinar and we can get all of our guests to answer those questions. I want to move on to FNB ESD, and we've got Mpho Mukotedi. She is the ESD funding manager at FNB Commercial Transactional Solutions, and she is a dream enabler and a value creator, passionate about entrepreneurship and business development, as well as the enabling role that financial services sector plays in the South African economy. So ladies and gents, please help me welcome Mpho Mukotedi.
Thank you, Nicolette. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for having me. So by way of introduction, I'm Mpho Mukotedi, and I'm here to speak to you really about how we can use enterprise and supply development funding or support to unlock growth in SMEs. I'm going to share with you my presentation. Okay, I hope everybody can see. Okay, so like I said, I'm part of the FNB SME development team. And what we do, or what I do, is I look after FNB's portfolio of ESD funds that we make available to early stage, majority Black owned businesses that are really looking to grow. And we do this in 2 ways: by providing financial and non-financial support to SMEs. Our strategy really is about trying to unlock that latent growth within SMEs by providing them with like contextual business development support, as well as funding to support their growth plans. This slide just basically gives an overview of some of the programs that we have, and that these form part of the non-financial support and some of the funding solutions that we have. So our business development programs are really focused on trying to provide SMEs with growth strategies and help them execute on their plans. We also empower SMEs with leadership and team development skills, as well as how to optimize their operations and their sales and marketing strategies. And most importantly, give them those nuggets of wisdom and skill with regards to financial management. We also provide on the left of the screen, you'll see some of the programs that we have. This is not all the programs that we have. It's just some of the programs that we do offer SMEs from time to time. We've got programs that look at really early stage businesses that are startups, and that is our Youth Startup Accelerator program, which we run together with Vedola, which I will unpack a little bit later, as well as industry-specific programs such as the zero accounting programs that we use to try empower Black-owned accounting firms with the necessary skills to grow and scale their businesses. Now, what we also believe is there's no use in providing, or it's not effective just to provide business development support in terms of skills, training, and coaching, but you need to almost couple that with some funding to help the SMEs, the entrepreneurs, pursue and unlock opportunities for themselves by providing them with funding. We do this in two ways. We do it within F&B and providing preferentially priced loan facilities to some of our suppliers. We also have a mezzanine loan fund that we provide to SMEs that are looking to grow. And then we also do it through our enterprise development fund, which is Vumela, and that is our off-balance sheet structure, which I'll unpack a little bit later in the presentation. Now, I know it's Youth Month, and I thought I should focus on how we're using ESD funding or ESD support to accelerate youth-owned businesses. We designed a program called the Youth Startup Accelerator Program, which was really designed to address the youth unemployment crisis that we have as a country by providing budding entrepreneurs that either have an idea or have just started a business with the foundational skills to build on their business acumen. And this is a 12-month program. The first one was in 2022, and we're on the second cohort. And really, the objective of this program is to provide foundational business skills, to build the entrepreneur business confidence, give them, their business skills that will make their businesses viable and sustainable in the long run. And we also support the entrepreneurs with some grant funding within the program. Now, the program is in two phases, and the first phase is really helping them to get out the starting blocks, right? And then once they move on to phase two, we provide them with grant funding to help accelerate their business plans and their business goals. Now, this program I've had the pleasure of engaging with some of the entrepreneurs in these programs. We provide them a platform to pitch the idea, and we provide them with skills, pitching skills, and you see the growth in the entrepreneurs and the confidence in the entrepreneurs as they grow through the program. And I think that's one of the big takeouts of this program and all our other programs, is that through our coaching and mentorship, we're empowering SMEs and entrepreneurs with the confidence that they need to face the challenges that come with entrepreneurship. Um, and one of the things I'd like to also mention about our programs is that, for this one specifically, is at the start of the program, we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are pre-revenue. It's really conceptual, these businesses that they have, to some that to at the end, by the end of the program, we've got more businesses that are post-revenue and are really have gotten out of the stumbling blocks and have generated momentum in their business throughout the program. Now, in addition to the programs that I mentioned are the non-financial support that we provide. We also provide with entrepreneurs or SMEs with alternative funding solutions. The reality for a lot of SMEs is that yes, banks are the biggest funders of SMEs in South Africa. However, not a lot of some SMEs are really early stage. And as FNB, we seek to provide alternative funding through the use of ESD funds that we have available. And one such offering that we have is the Supply Development Mezzanine Finance loan, which is really tailored to for businesses that are now looking to scale. They have their cash flow positive, they're profitable, but they now want to expand into new markets, new product lines, and we provide them with really tailored patient growth finance that allows them to realize they objectives. Now our loan sizes for these SMEs are between 500 and 2 million, and it's really trying to provide businesses with that capital to buy that piece of equipment, to, if you are a software development company, to hire in those skills that will help you develop your product or your technology. We also have alternative funding, as I mentioned earlier, via our Enterprise Development Fund, which is Vumela. Vumela has been in existence since 2019, and it's in its fourth fund currently. And within the fourth fund, we have a few mandates that are really tailored to helping early stage businesses grow and realize their vision. Now, we don't have funding instruments that are specifically tailored to the youth. However, we do have youth entrepreneurs, youth-owned businesses that do apply to our various funding lines. For instance, we've got the PO financing offering. This one is really early stage. This is, you could, as long as you've got a valid purchase order from a reputable off-taker, we can help finance your purchase order. Then we have what we call the Accelerate loan. This loan is available to entrepreneurs that are on our programs. And I welcome and encourage the participants to go on to the FNB website and look under the ESD funding page or the ESD page to see what programs we're running at the moment and apply. Because through those programs, you're able to access this Accelerate loan, and it's exactly the purpose of that loan is exactly that. It's to accelerate your business by providing you with by providing really early stage businesses with capital from a working capital perspective, from a CapEx perspective, as well as from like a PO, but with execution risk perspective as well. Then we have, for more growing businesses that are they're growing, but they don't yet qualify for your traditional funding from bank funding. We've got what we call the supply chain debt finance. And these loan values range from 1 million to 10 million. And then we've got, for those that don't have the balance sheet to support debt, we have an equity offering just to help catalyze the growth of the business. And then we have an instrument called the venture debt instrument. This is really tailored for businesses that have raised funding before from maybe a venture capitalist fund, and they are in between, they fundraising in between the Series A and B, and just need that bridge financing that is non-dilutive. So the reality for a lot of businesses that are fundraising is that you almost have to give away from an equity perspective, you always, whenever you're fundraising, you have to give away a piece of your business each time you're raising funds. Now, with this venture debt offering, what it does is that it provides you with that bridging or that bridging finance or that capital to grow without diluting your shareholding, which I think it's quite innovative in its nature. So in a nutshell, this is what we have as F&B ESD from a non-financial and a financial support perspective that we have tailored towards youth-owned enterprises and any SME truly that's really looking to create growth and sustainability in their business. Now, this slide just gives you an overview of our ecosystem as ESD funding. How earlier I mentioned how our strategy or our objective is how do we couple non-financial support from a programmatic perspective with financial support. And as you can see, for startups, we've got the Youth Startup Accelerator Program, and these are the funding offerings that are available to them. And as the businesses grow throughout the business life cycle, there's different programs that are really that are contextual and are trying to address the pain points and solve for the challenges that SMEs in this stage of growth experience. And we couple that with the different funding mandates that we have available in our portfolio. So and that's me and what I came to present to you today in a nutshell. Thank you very much. If you are interested in more information, please contact us on our ESD funding address. It's esd@fnb.co.za. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mpho. Quite exciting. I think I'm itching with questions and I cannot wait for the Q&A session because there's quite a lot that you have shared. I think if anybody has been thoroughly listening, you are able to match your own business status, or rather maybe the phase of where your business is, with some sort of support that FNB is offering. And I like the idea of coupling non-financial with financial support, because often when you sit at ESD programs, in some instances, you find that, they give you all of the non-financial. It's absolutely fantastic. Somebody once said South African youth businesses probably at this point need funding more than any more, training. And I think it's great to see that you give the training, you give the support, and then on the other hand, you're like, well, listen, we also have the access to funding that we are making available. So what really excited me was the Youth Startup Accelerator. I think we're sitting, as I said, with South Africans that have absolutely innovative ideas. They just need someone to hold their hand to really start. And then on the other side, you also have Vumela. So that's quite exciting. And we really do appreciate you, Mpho, and we cannot wait to sit with you through the Q&A.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gents, please do remember, once again, we will be having the Q&A a little bit later on. We will have all of our speakers joining us so that we can have the conversation with them. So if you are sitting there with a question, if you would like, you can share it on our social media streaming platforms, or you can drop it in the chat box. Alternatively, you can wait for the Q&A and you will be able to ask the questions that you've got. I'm going to move on to welcome Manyata Nkuta, who is the Youth Segment Lead at the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa. There was a quotation that I pulled in an interview with Gugu Mfuphi on Kaya Biz. He said the IDC recognizes that the youth are authors of change change and are in charge of their own destiny. We encourage them to challenge the status quo and aim to participate meaningfully in the economy's priority sectors such as mining, agriculture, and manufacturing. These are some of the key sectors that can unlock tremendous economic benefits for the youth and combat the current high rate of unemployment amongst the youth. So with beautiful, beautiful style, because we are in Youth Month and quite encouraged by that quotation, please, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Manyata Nguta.
Thank you so much, Nicolette. Really appreciate the opportunity that you have given me. And yeah, as you have correctly said, I'm from the IDC. My role at IDC really is to ensure that business units provide funding to young people. So that's all I do, to ensure that IDC, as it provides funding, industrial development funding, to industrialize South Africa. They include young people because young people are very important in participating in the economy of South Africa. So with that, I would like to share my presentation with you. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. So, all right. Let me just do this quickly. Right. All right. Thank you so much. Let me just go to the beginning of my presentation quickly. Right. So as I indicated earlier, that we are a government-owned entity. We are tasked with industrializing South Africa by providing funding to businesses that are in manufacturing and other, call them productive sectors. So we are one of the biggest development financial institutions in South Africa. And we obviously, as I said, we are tasked to build industrial capacity to fuel the country's economic growth. And we obviously focus on priority sectors. And then we try and look for opportunities. We sometimes don't wait for people or SMEs to come to us. We really look at those opportunities and try to get them. Right. So, so I thought, let me just give you highlights of how IDC performed, because one day a young person asked me if IDC does provide funding to people, or whether we don't do that. And I was really surprised. So I thought, let me just highlight to you what we have done in the past financial year. You would see that we have provided up to 20 billion rand that we have injected in the economy, and we disbursed about 17.8 billion rand into the economy, and we assisted in creating about 34,000 jobs. And then when we talk about transformation funding, we include here funding Black people, young people, and women. So we have disbursed about, or at least approved about 11.4 billion for Black entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, and youth entrepreneurs. So we made a profit of about 6 billion rand, and I need to explain that. So because IDC, although we are a state-owned entity, we report to Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. We do not get allocation from government, so we use this profit to refinance some of the SMEs, or at least to use that money to finance, to refinance and ensure that we continue to be sustainable. And as I said, that we are biggest financial institution or at least DFI, with asset base of 162 billion rand. So this is how our funding is distributed among different provinces. I mean, I need to also say that you would see that we fund a lot of transactions in Gauteng, in KZN and Western Cape. But you also see that Limpopo is also coming strong. But I need to also just mention that there are provinces where we really want to really ensure that we fund as entrepreneurs there. If you look at Free State, Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, we're not doing very well, and we would like really to encourage young people specifically from those provinces to come up with businesses that can be funded, because that's what we want. I mean, our business is to ensure that we fund entrepreneurs. All right, so some of you would know that IDC, as I said, we fund big industrial operations, and that has been the mandate of the IDC for quite some time. But a few years ago, about 5 years ago, excuse me, so IDC then established small business finance. This was specifically to ensure that we fund smaller businesses, and we also decentralize our funding, particularly for smaller businesses, to the regions. We have nine regions, which are basically provinces. And then we do fund smaller businesses from 1 million rand up to 20 million rand from those from the regional offices. The intention really here is to ensure that we speed up the process of approval, particularly for smaller transactions, which would start from 1 million rand up to 20 million rand. So we actually did fairly well in terms of funding smaller businesses. We have invested about 510 million rand and disbursed 305 million rand to those smaller businesses. So our value proposition really is that we combine. We really want to partner with others to ensure that we finance and fulfill our mandate of industrializing South Africa. So it's important that we partner with other people, particularly entrepreneurs, to ensure that we achieve inclusive industrial development. All right. So this is what we do basically. And now that I have told you how big we are and what we do, so this is basically what we do. We provide funding to maximize development goal of the IDC. So by that, we mean that each and every person who wants to start a business in the sectors that I will highlight now, they can really approach IDC to obtain funding. And then we obviously then grow industrial capacity and capability of South Africa. Our intention really is to boost economic growth and boost industrial development. So, and I sometimes get questioned whether IDC funds startups. Yes, we do fund startups, greenfields. If you have a business idea or business plan, you can approach us. We do not only fund businesses that are already existing, but we also fund startups and those that need expansion funding. So our funding model, how does our funding model work? As I said, that we don't get any allocation from government. So we obviously have investment in bigger transactions, and those transactions will provide us with dividends. And then that 6 billion that I was talking about, internal profits, we use it to capitalize IDC, and we also borrow domestic and international markets, and that will talk to the pricing. I will talk to you about how we price our funding, and bear in mind that we use these methods to actually get money from the market and from our internal operations to ensure that we continue to be sustainable. So on the right-hand side of the screen here, I actually highlighted that we provide loan funding, meaning that it will be interest-bearing loans where we give you a loan and then you pay on a monthly basis. But we can also invest equity in the business, thereby we will then get dividends from that investment that we have made in your business. All right, very important now. So these are the sectors that we have are funding in, and because we are not a generalist funder, we are specific. We fund in productive sectors. You would see there we have agro processing, and here I need to explain that we do not necessarily fund primary agriculture, but agro processing. So meaning that if you want to buy a farm and you want to plant maize meal, you probably have to approach land bank. But if you want to do, let's say, an abattoir or, packaging of vegetables and things like that, then you can approach IDC, because all that we want to see is value add that you would provide in that particular sector. And then we also fund in automotive and transport equipment, chemicals, medical and industrial products. Very important in energy, we fund renewables and things like that. And then we've also funded infrastructure, big buildings. This mostly would be in, they call it a project finance. And then we also fund in machinery and equipment in electronics. This is this I like very much, media and audiovisual. You would have seen some of the series on Netflix and SABC that have been funded by IDC. So we do provide funding in that sector. Mining and metals. Some of you would have seen that we have now opened junior mining exploration fund. So we also fund in mining and textile and wood, and then tourism and services. This is where young people can also play an important role. Okay. So we have a number of products that are tailor-made, but today, because I'm talking to young people during Youth Month, I will obviously now, focus on bespoke products for young people. So I'm going to talk about Grow EU scheme and also youth pipeline development program. Those are specific products that are developed for young people, and I will just get in there and talk about them. Although we have a whole lot of other products that we can fund, provide to young people. Please do visit our website. But today I will just focus on Grow E and youth pipeline development program. So with Grow EU scheme, it's actually a scheme that was established for young people to encourage youth entrepreneurship and employment creation in South Africa. And I will also talk to youth pipeline development program, which really focuses on ensuring that the applications of young people are ready when they come to IDC, so that they can increase the chances of success. So Grow E, so it's a 950 million rand fund. We fund their equity, quasi-equity and loans, a minimum of 1 million rand and a maximum of 50 million rand per transaction. So who should apply? Who can apply? Even if you are a startup business, please do approach us. If you are an existing business, please do approach us. So this is very important. For young people to qualify for GrowE, they need to the business has to be owned at least by 25% by a person who is under the age of 36. So because then we call that youth participation. If it's 25 plus 1% owned, we call it youth participation, and you can benefit from GrowE. But obviously what we want businesses that are 100% owned by young people are even better. And then if it's owned by young people, 51%, now it also qualifies for youth-owned business. So this is very important. The business must demonstrate economic merit, meaning that you need to come to us with a viable business that would really be viable. We don't really want any other application that is not viable coming to our desk. So we want the business to have been considered very well. And then in terms of the job creation, so I mean, because GrowE was developed to facilitate employment, we are saying that at least for each and every 800,000 that we give to a youth-owned business, we need to create one job. So that's what the 800 means. So if we give you 5 million rand, for example, we expect you to create more or less 5-6 jobs. And then the business obviously must be BEE certified to qualify for GrowE. Okay. Okay, so as we continue, the business operation or expanding must be in South Africa. Although IDC funds everywhere in Africa, in the African continent, our mandate was expanded to the rest of Africa. But for this particular product, we only fund in South Africa for young people. So the funding period obviously will be structured to meet the cash flow needs. And then we will if your business, for example, you're starting a business and you have to set up a business for, let's say, 6 months or a year while you are setting up, we will obviously then provide payment holidays to ensure that before you start paying, the business has generated some kind of cash flow. As I said, the fund is available to South Africans and permanent residents. And then, as I indicated, those sectors, the business must obviously operate in those sectors that I have just mentioned. And then this one is quite interesting, youth pipeline development program. So you would see that the GrowE is 950 and this one is 50. So what IDC did was put 1 billion rand aside for youth participation. So 50 million really is to support businesses. Let's say, for example, you have a business and our deal makers have looked at it and they really like it. And the only challenge, let's say, is environmental impact assessment. That thing can be very expensive. So what we do with this 50 million rand is to then say, okay, we will assist a young person to get that so that the business becomes, compliant, and then IDC will pay for that cost. If the transaction finally is approved, then 50% of that will be a grant, and then 50% of that will be an interest-free loan, which will be capitalized. But if the transaction at the end of the day is not approved, although we have paid whatever amount, 200,000 for environmental impact assessment, that will fall away as a grant. So the young person will not be liable to pay anything. So with this, we do not, I need to emphasize that we do not necessarily fund young people to prepare business plans or anything. We can only enhance a business plan, meaning that the business must have, met a basic criteria, and then maybe the financials are not audited, or there's something wrong with the financials. We can then pay to ensure that we bring the business to bankability. So it can be a startup or an expansion. We will do it. Pre-BA assistance, and then, as I said, that the transaction must have been okayed by the business unit to say we like it, but obviously we want to do one or two. We want to improve one or two things. And then, as I said, that is really to try and bring the application to bankable stage, including those things that I have just mentioned. And then this fund is, we can actually pay up to 6% of potential investment, or the maximum of R500,000 in supporting. This is purely a non-financial support that we provide to a youth-owned business. And then we also provide post-approval assistance. So sometimes you need to implement, if you want to implement, and you want to clear conditions precedents and things like that, and you are unable to clear those conditions because you need some money that needs to be paid. We can actually do that and ensure that we provide that support. And this will include mentorship, things like that. And on the post-investment, the maximum that we can provide is R1.5 million. All right. So if you meet the criteria that I have spoken about, please, I mean, what young people can do can really go to our website, where you can register your business plan there, upload all the required documents, and then we will process the application, and then we will conduct what we call it's a due diligence, where we would come to your business, ensure that whatever that you said in your business plan is correct, and is just verify that what you are saying in your business plan is correct. So, but if you are a young person and you are unsure, and maybe you would want to ask to talk to about your business, you are more than welcome to really drop me an email, and then we can go through your business plan, and then even before you register it online, at least we have seen that it has the chance of success. So you are more than welcome really to email me or talk to me if you are a young person, so that I can handhold you through the application process. But this is our process in terms of applying, and then from when you register your business up to when you contract and sign your loan agreement, and then we disburse fund. All right, this is my story. Thank you so much. Let me do this, stop sharing, and then do this. Yes, Nicolette, that's my story. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity. I am waiting with bated breath for the questions from young people, so I'll stick around to take those questions.
Please do, Mr. Nguta. And before I let you go, in terms of this session, you said, please email me before you even, but you didn't finish off that sentence with the email address.
Okay,
So if I could kindly ask, if you can maybe just drop it for us in the chat box. I know that there's a lot of young people here who are in business who could potentially benefit from your assistance. So I do want to humbly ask if you can just drop that email address in the chat box. But however, Mr. Manyata Nguta is still going to be here for the Q&A that's coming up right after Roger. So I encourage everyone to stay online, stay connected, show that you are this resilient youth in business that wants information. And I must say, I'm really excited to hear that you are looking for opportunities to partner with youth in Free State, in Mpumalanga, in Northern Cape, and in Northwest. So if you are from any of those provinces, they are waiting for you. The Department of Trade, Industry, and Competition is saying, come through. If you're an industrialist, we really want to work with you. And I think often sometimes when we look at the sector, or rather the framing of the sector of industrialists, some of us get lost in it. And I like that Mr. Nguta took us through the different sectors. I personally got excited in media and audiovisual. I got excited about energy. I think there's a lot of opportunities for young people to step into the energy sector and really offer solutions to South Africa. Textiles and wood products. I mean, wow. I come from a work school, Rob Ferreira, in Mpumalanga, and woodwork was still one of the big subjects that our school used to offer. So this is exciting because it means that there is a viable pipeline that can move you from what you are studying at high school to really starting your business. Tourism and services. I mean, who better than to show the story of South Africa than young people? So, Ms. Nguta, we really do appreciate it. Looking forward to engaging a little bit later on Grow Youth Scheme and, of course, the Youth Pipeline Development Program. Personally, I wrote a business plan. I must tell you, I wrote a business plan. Hey, I got confused in certain areas. I was like, where do I do my market research? Where do I find the funding or the resources to help me? I mean, the financial projections, they look sometimes for 5-year financial projections. Where do you even start? Because obviously we all go to school for different type of expertise. So while my strengths may be in marketing, I don't have the strengths and the partners to help me put together those financial projections. So it's exciting to know that you guys are saying, the youth, we are waiting for you, come and engage with us. So that email address has been dropped into the chat box. But as I said already, Mr. Manyata Nguta will be here with us during the Q&A. So if you can just hold tight for us. Mr. Nguta, thank you once more.
Thank you so much, Nicolette. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we're going to move on. And I just need to make an apology from David Molefe, who's from the Industrial Development Corporation. They will unfortunately not be joining us this morning. However, don't stress. We've got all the other speakers that are going to still be available to answer your questions. And what we'll try to do as Proudly South African is to share some of those opportunities that the IDC would have shared this morning. Now, next up, I want to bring somebody who is an entrepreneur by heart. He's passionate about helping other entrepreneurs and businesses grow. With over 26 years in the liquor licensing consultancy, specializes in applications and business development. He's recently started a retail development consulting company, which is focused on practical skills for independent retailers. Now, who am I speaking about? I am indeed speaking about a proudly South African member. It is Roger Smith from Business Basics Shops CC. And as a director of a consultancy called BNI Johannesburg, Roger has co-authored Business Basics, Creating Excellence in Small Business. I think a book that each and every single one of us should go out and find, buy, read, and then put into application all of the lessons that are being shared in that book, because it provides essential financial skills and tools. And currently, even more exciting, Roger Smith is working on a book specifically for retail businesses. So ladies and gents on the line, please help me welcome Roger Smith.
Hi, thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to quickly just share my screen. I have a quick video to play. So hopefully with any luck, you can see this. Hang on 1 second. Let me just see if I've shared the right screen, because this should be screen number 2. Hold on 1 second, screen number 2. And here we go. So this is just an introduction of what we do. And then I'll go into the presentation afterwards. Hi, my name is Roger Smith, and I'm a retail and subject matter expert at Business Basics. For the last 14 years, we've helped many entrepreneurs in the retail sector start and develop a business of their own. At Business Basics, we have a vision of creating excellence in the small, retail, home-based, and micro-manufacturing industry. Our products and services cover three main passion areas for us in the retail and small business development sector, namely design and interior layout consulting, retail development and turnkey projects, with a secondary focus on liquor license applications and fire and health compliance. Our third passion is owner-centric retail and entrepreneurial development skills. Our proudly South Africa book, Business Basics, Creating Excellence in Small Business, is aimed at helping the solopreneur, home-based, and micro-manufacturing business owner learn the basics easy and fast. The book can be used to develop not only your own basic business skills, but that of a family member or even an employee. For more about the book, you can contact Business Basics on info@businessbasics.co.za, or you can WhatsApp us during office hours on 076 495 2129. Hi. Right, so I'm now just going to quickly transition over to the presentation. And then, yeah, we're looking forward to answering any questions you might have afterwards. Just a quick heads up, can everybody see the presentation? Right, I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, so this is our book, Business Basics, Creating Excellence in Small Business. It's aimed at educate, prepare, empower yourself with essential skills and knowledge of business that will support you for a lifetime. Now, I've spent quite a lot of time in the retail space. I've been in retail businesses myself, but my first side hustle started at the age of 17, running a bar service for a film company. So we basically served drinks, and I wasn't even old enough to partake of the beverages, which is probably why they were safe, sort of letting us serve the drinks. But today I'd like to chat about 5 important tips for any startup or side hustle business. And this is based on sort of 10 of the most common problems that we find with any new startup business. So tip number 1, keeping effective records. So there's an old saying, avoid garbage in, garbage out, and it cannot be stressed enough for any kind of business that the more accurate your recording of your transactions, your VAT, your money in, money out, your expenses, etc., the better it is for you, because it'll allow you to measure, monitor, and manage the business and its finances and performance much better. But then also when it comes to your annual returns, you know, if you've been creative during the year and then hand your books over to your accountant or bookkeeper to help you with your annual return, they are not going to know what mess you've caused and could potentially either get you into a lot of trouble with the tax man, but you could probably get a very, very nasty surprise at the end of the year when you realize that whereas you thought you might only have to pay 100,000 rands worth of tax this year, you're actually having to pay 500,000 rands worth of tax because you've fudged the books as you went along. So keeping effective records is essential for any business, especially if you're trying to unlock funding, because if you're not going to be open and honest about your business and its financial standing, how do you expect them to, with confidence, contribute and help you grow your business? And if you want to learn how to find sort of keep effective records, there are opportunities to do that through the book. Our second most important tip is your break-even point. Now, we come across this quite a lot, where, especially with new startup businesses in the restaurant game, liquor stores, etc., and we ask them what their break-even point is, and we get this blank expression from them. So in a nutshell, the break-even point is that point within a trading period, whether it's a week, a month, a year, where you've generated enough sales to cover your overhead expenses. And there's a simple calculation that you can use, and that your operating costs or expenses times 100 divided by your gross profit percentage. And that will then give you the minimum figure in turnover that you need to do to be able to cover your expenses. But there's something that you need to know about the break-even point, and that is just because you've done turnover, you're not making a profit until after you've passed that point. And then once you've passed that point, any sales that you do will be at whatever your gross profit percentage is. So, for example, if your monthly expenses were 20,000 Rand a month and your gross profit percentage was 20%, you'd need to do about 100,000 Rands worth of business just to break even. If you happen to do 110,000 Rands worth of business that month, you're only generating profits on the last 10,000 Rands worth of turnover and only at the 20% gross profit that you've calculated. So bear in mind, if you're not keeping track of your records and not knowing what your break-even points are going to be, you could very rapidly get yourself into serious trouble. And we've seen a number of companies that have failed because they weren't keeping track of this particular thing. The third tip is kind of self-explanatory, but it's keeping track of your expenses. And it's important to keep your hands on the wheel and manage your expenses. And it's important because these three things, keeping effective records, your break-even point, and monitoring your expenses, all work together in order for you to measure and manage your business. The challenge is for a lot of entrepreneurs is they start making money in their business, and then they start utilizing the business's profitability to spend more. The problem is, if you're not monitoring those expenses, you can sometimes spend more than you have. So when it comes to any kind of expenses on the business, if you're increasing your expenses, you need to increase your break-even point, which then in turn increases your sales figures so that you can then cover those future expenses. And this is something else that happens quite a lot. We've seen it a lot in the liquor industry. Many years ago, when the IDC was actually funding Black entrepreneurs into the retail space, some of them didn't understand the importance of keeping track of their expenses. They didn't understand their break-even points. And with a month or two of opening their doors, had unfortunately had to close them again. So keeping a good track of your expenses is important. And it's also good to understand the difference between what a purchase is and what an expense is. So a purchase is something you buy to resell in the business, whereas an expense is something that's incurred by the business to keep its doors open. So a simple example would be, if you're buying shoes to resell in a shoe shop, then the shoes would be purchases because you sell them to make a profit. But if you were buying a pen and pencil and a ruler and a notepad to keep track of your sales, those would be expenses on the business. And it's a good idea to try and separate business and personal expenses, especially when you start as a small business, because you don't want the personal expenses creeping into your business, and then that then affects the reporting of the profitability of the business, and could potentially also put you in a situation where the company is spending more money on things that are actually not company related, and you as an individual are not showing your true income because you're pulling money from the business all the time, and that could have major consequences from a tax liability at a later stage. The next tip is VAT. And unfortunately, for a lot of startup businesses, they don't really understand the importance of VAT. So I'm going to give you sort of a broader spectrum, a broader answer to this tip. And remember that VAT doesn't belong to you or your business. VAT is something you collect on behalf of SARS and the taxman. It doesn't belong to the business and needs to be paid over on a monthly basis. So what I've done with my business, just to make things simplified, is, and I happen to be an FNB member as well, is I have a separate savings account for my VAT. And as our sales increase throughout the week, we take the VAT portion, we transfer that into our savings account. And when it comes time to do our VAT return for the month, we at least know all the VAT has been put somewhere safe so we can access it. And with that VAT money, we can then pay over what's due, and whatever we can claim back from sits in that account. And we use it almost as a slush fund to pay for unforeseen expenses. If one month we maybe spend too much, we need to then obviously offset that against the VAT. That VAT money is there all the time for the taxman. And at the end of the year, when we do our returns, if there's anything extra that needs to be paid over, it gets paid from that account. And if we get any rebates at the end of the year, we then transfer that back into that account, and we keep track of our VAT from that side. We try and keep everything separate and clean, and we do the same thing with our personal account. We keep a separate personal account, separate savings account, so that we can keep track of what we're saving and what that money's being used for. Because it's quite tempting when you've got money, and we've had this with a client where they didn't understand how VAT worked in their business. They saw VAT as an expense. So when it came time to pay VAT over, they decided they would go and buy more product and they would offset that VAT against what VAT they needed to pay. And at the end of the year, the taxman said, but hang on a minute, you've got 350,000 rands worth of assets in the form of stock that you've purchased that you haven't declared. Therefore, you need to pay us our 33% on that stock, on that asset that you had. And he wound up with a massive tax bill at the end of the year because he was messing around with his VAT because he didn't understand how to keep those records, and he didn't appreciate that that money actually wasn't his. It belonged to the government and it wasn't an expense of his business. So please, if you need help with that, go and speak to a bookkeeper or an accountant that can keep track of it for you. And I would suggest maybe creating a savings account and putting all your VAT money into that so that you don't accidentally spend it when you're not paying attention. The fifth tip that I'd like to discuss is the respecting your business's bank account. And I think the guys from F&B will love this. And that is, you never look at your business's bank account as your own personal piggy bank. It's very tempting for entrepreneurs to see 100,000 rands worth of profit sitting in their business account and then to take some of that to go on holiday. If you get into that habit, you're going to get yourself into financial trouble where the business is no longer as profitable as it should be. You could have suppliers that you owe money to. There could be tax implications that you need to settle. But then in your personal capacity, you've now taken more money than you've technically earned, and you now need to pay tax on that extra money. So if you want to budget for things like holidays and things, rather do that out of your salary and wherever possible, not take personal money out of the business until it comes to the time of year where you can then take drawings from the company as a profit share, etc. But try and leave as much of the profit in the business so that the business can buy new equipment, the business can capitalize, the business can pay for expansions, the business can buy more stock, the business can maybe invest in a delivery vehicle or marketing incentives, etc. And these five tips go together quite nicely because it gets you in the right and responsible habit of keeping effective records, understanding how much turnover you need to do to break even, and when you start making profit in your business, it helps you to keep a good track of your VAT and make sure that you're not spending money that doesn't belong to you. Also, making sure that you're not overspending in your personal life and then having to take money from the business all the time to fund a lavish lifestyle so you can be seen to be doing better than you actually are. Remember that business money doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the business. And if you're going to draw money, there is a tax implication to that. But as we've got a bit of time, I just want to chuck in one more tip here, and that's also a common problem we come up with the retail space, and that is understanding the difference between a markup and a gross profit percentage or a gross profit. So markup is something you add to your cost price to determine your selling price. Gross profit is the difference between your cost price and your selling price. We had a client that was looking at buying a jewelry business. She had about 3.5 million rand to invest, but the previous owner didn't understand the difference between those two terms. They were adding 150% markup to all their jewelry, which was a very easy calculation for them, but they assumed that if they were marking up 150%, that they were making 150% profit. And in reality, they weren't. They were only making a 60% gross profit. So understanding the difference between markup and gross profit, how that affects your business, how those figures tie into your break even, and how your calculation of your expenses will then help determine your target that you need to achieve in order to break even. Those figures are very, very important for any small business, whether you're starting off with 50 Rand or starting off with 500,000 Rand or 5 million Rand. Those figures are very, very important to be successful, and you need to keep accurate records in order to do that. And for those entrepreneurs in the webinar today, if you want to learn a little bit more about how those figures work together, if you want to look at some of the blank templates that we can help you with to keep a track of your expenses and your petty cash, etc. If you want to access some of the quick reference guides, on what is the difference between 150% markup and a 60% gross profit, for example. All of that is to be found in the Business Basics book, Creating Excellence in Small Business. It is proudly South African, was written by South Africans, printed and produced locally in South Africa, and obviously distributed through South African companies. And we're very, very proud of the product, and we're very proud to have an opportunity to talk to you guys today about it. And if you want to find out more, you can email us at sales@businessbasics.co.za, or you can WhatsApp us during office hours on 076 495 2129. I'm going to wrap it up from there, and yeah, hand over. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity, and looking forward to answering any of your questions.
Fantastic, Roger. Thank you very much. That was absolutely so beneficial, I think, for all businesses. And as you were speaking, I was like, oh my goodness, Roger is speaking about me and my business. I've fallen into the VAT trap so many times. And I've had to sit with my accounting and tax guys and say, guys, I need you first and foremost to tell me, how often am I paying VAT? Because I did not know. So sometimes you don't even plan for it. Throws your cash flow totally, especially if you don't understand it. But I think another thing that understanding VAT helped me with in my business was actually pricing. Because in essence, what we were trying to price did not factor in that VAT portion. So you end up actually underpricing yourself, especially because we're a service business, you know? So I think it's such great nuggets. And if I can just reinforce some of the ones that really stood out for me, keeping financial records. I don't think you can get away with running a business and not knowing what's actually happening in your business. Knowing your break-even point, that is probably cream of the crop when you're a business and you're trying to grow. And you are not running a business where you are, what we say is you're not actually running a business, you are self-employed. You know, sometimes people kind of don't make the movement from that because they're not hoping or they don't know how to get their business to move on to the next step. That, of course, tracking your expenses. I mean, fundamentally, as somebody that pushes for consumer financial education, from an entrepreneur yourself, you've got a budget. From a business perspective, you've got to know where you are spending your money. Because we say where you spend your money is where you are investing. So you need to understand what are some of your expenses and be able to differentiate what is an expense and what is not an expense. And I think Roger gave us a proper example there. And then the last, and probably, respect your business account, guys. It's not a kitty. It's not a kitty. It is to make sure that you are running a viable business. At the end of the day, for you to be investor ready, for you to be funding ready, someone is going to go through those bank statements and they want to know what exactly are you doing with the business's money. We always talk about if you keep dipping into your business account, you're essentially stealing from yourself. Remember, we are all natural people born with our own IDs. And when we create businesses, we go to CIPC and we create juristic people. So we cannot be stealing from them. Absolutely important, Roger. Once again, thank you very much. I've shared Roger's email address. It's sales@businessbasics.co.za. That's a second, I would say that's a second starting point. The first one is to get the book. The book is going to propel you to be able to ask the right questions in that conversation when you do email sales@businessbasics.co.za. All right, Roger, thank you very much, but please do stay put because we're going to move to an exciting portion of our conversation, and that is the Q&A. So I'd like to invite all of my speakers, starting, of course, with Janine van Straten, Mpho Mokotedi, Manyata Nkuta, and Roger Smith, and we're going to jump straight into that Q&A. We're going to try and make it as simple as possible. Every single person that is on the session, you can use the Q&A function at the bottom. If you do not want to use the Q&A function, please just indicate to us by dropping a text in the chat box, and we'll be able to read that question out for you and get it answered. There is a question that has already been sent through, so if I can just get, before I carry on, to see if I can get all of the speakers to just simply say hello, so I know you are online and you are able to answer any questions that are coming through.
Hello.
We'll start with Janine. Thanks, Roger. Janine, I see you've sent a message into the chat box. Mpho, are you there for us?
Hello, I'm here.
Perfect. Thanks, Mpho. And Manyata Nkuta, are you there, sir?
I'm here. Thank you.
All right, perfect. And with that, I am here. The first question is coming to you, Manyatsa, and the question is, can we talk a little bit about the agricultural sector that you spoke about? The question is coming from Anonymous, and they'd like to know, can you please be specific on what kind of agricultural practices do you fund and the requirements to receive that funding?
Right, thank you so much for the question. So as I indicated that we do not necessarily fund primary agriculture, we provide funding to agro processing. What that means is that if you have a feedlot, for example, which has an abattoir, it's within the agriculture, but it's more into the agro processing, so we can fund that. As I also said, that we would also fund what they call cash crops, meaning that the crops that would your greenhouses and things like that, we do provide funding for those. I think what we do not fund is your primary agriculture and those crops that take too long to actually be converted into cash. We do not fund that. We are part of government. So what government of South Africa has done, they gave mandates to different organizations, and primary agriculture, buying of farms, things like that would be funded by the land bank, and we only do the agro processing part as IDC. I hope I've answered that question.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that answer. So guys, as Mr. Nkuta has already mentioned, it is worthwhile going to look at some of the alternative funders. If you are looking to go into the primary agriculture, I think that would be a first starting point. Perhaps maybe if you're unsure of whether your initiative is a primary agriculture initiative, you can reach out to Mr. Manyatsa. He's shared his email address. I'm sure he'll be more than welcome to direct you in the right direction and give you some sort of feedback in terms of where can you get that funding. The next question we've got from Studuzo Shandu, and this is to Mpho. He would like to know the youth program by FNB. Do we have to apply for that, and what is the process? Secondly, what is the time frame? So how many months does the program take?
Okay. So yes, you can go on to the FNB ESD web page on the FNB website. I think Nicolette, I think somebody had posted it on the chat. So you can just go there. Currently, we do not. The program is already in progress, so they aren't taking in any applications. However, there is a third program that will be launched towards later this year. So what I would and there will be a call for application. So if you follow FNB socials and Fedula socials, you should see a call for applications coming out there. And that's the process. It's a 12-month program that's divided into two phases. Phase one, which is really about developing and refining those ideas, or conceptualizing those business ideas, and then phase two is about accelerating those your business plans.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, Mpho, for that question. I want to move on to asking a question that has not come through from the audience per se to Roger. Roger, and I'm hoping I'm not putting you on the spot, but if you can maybe potentially take us through some of the other tax requirements for small businesses and what tax breaks you can think of at the top of your mind right now that's small businesses in South Africa, youth-led businesses can potentially tap into.
Yeah, that is kind of a difficult question to answer without being the accountant or financial guru in the meeting. Obviously, I would seriously consider engaging with an expert. I don't want to give any advice that could potentially bite us in the butt. But at the end of the day, it's important to understand that in every business, when you start, there will become a point where you need to register the business for tax, and you may also need to register for VAT. And then included in that, you obviously have your PAYE, your UIF, your skills development levies, and so on and so forth. So when starting a business, you might be able to operate under the threshold initially, but that threshold is very, very low. I think for businesses, and I do stand under correction, I think a minimum is about 70,000 a year that you can operate under without having to register. But it's important to still register your business as a tax entity, because if you're going to be plugging into places like the banks and things like that, IDC, they want to see that you are tax compliant. So even if you're only doing 20,000 rand a year, you need to be tax compliant in order to do that. With VAT, there's obviously a threshold. You can volunteer to become a VAT client if your amount that you do is under a certain threshold, but there's obviously monthly VAT returns that you have to do. We, from a business point of view, when it comes to the development and training that we do, we try not to teach our clients to be accountants and bookkeepers. We teach them rather to understand the language of the accountant and to understand the figures that go together, but to capitalize and utilize on the knowledge and expertise of those individuals. Because, as I said, we're not here to teach you to be a bookkeeper or an accountant. I am a qualified a bookkeeper myself. I have a lot of experience running businesses. I still heavily rely on my accountants for certain expertise and knowledge, because that helps me grow. So I don't want to give any specific advice, but speak to an accountant, speak to a bookkeeper, go and get a hold of SARS, and they will give you all the details that you need. And if you are looking at funding and growing a business, you will need to be tax compliant in some form or another.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Roger, for that. I know I put you on the spot there. And I think you mentioned something quite important, the compliance at SARS. I mean, earlier this year, I couldn't get a new contract with a private client, because often people think it's only sitting with government clients for you to be able to submit the tax clearance certificate. But I found for the first time this year that even with private sector clients, if you are looking to do work with them, you do need to make sure that your tax matters are compliant, and you need that tax clearance certificate. So I absolutely
and it's
respect that.
Yeah, so it's also not necessarily tax as well. For certain types of businesses, you need fire compliance, you need health compliance, you need occupational, you need to be registered with the Labor Department. You might need to have employees that are first aid responders and firefighters within your company. That then starts playing in the realm of the labor law and things. So when you get your business up to a point where you need to start looking at those things, then you need to go and engage with an expert. Our name is Business Basics because that's what we aim at, the basics.
Thank you so much, Roger. Janine, if I can just bring you into the conversation. We love stories in South Africa. If you can potentially share a success story from a proudly South African member that has benefited from holding the membership, please.
Sure. Nicolette, you broke up a little bit. Just to confirm, you are looking for
apologies.
No problem, a Proudly SA member success story.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Sure. We've got, you'll notice if you go on our website, www.proudlysa.co.za, our quarterly reports are there, and there are up to, I think, about 100 success stories that we've published. So I would like to encourage everybody to log on. But off the bat, to think about a good example, we are all about access to markets for our member companies. We participate in the Delicious Festival of Food and Music every year, and we buy space for our members to exhibit there and to sell their goods. Just to give you a sense, there's 40,000 visitors over the 2-day period. We buy the space for them, so they don't pay a single thing other than their membership fee to us every year. They come through, they make food and other food items. and also sell their goods. Sometimes we have other accessories to sell, like sun hats and nice mats to sit on, which are also a big winner at the Delicious Festival. But our members have sold in essence of collectively, I would say probably in the region of a few 100,000 rands worth of sales at the Delicious Festival. If I put them all together, we've got members who've paid off their equipment that they utilize in their factories, etc., just by coming through to participate in the Delicious Festival. And the Delicious Festival owners are also very, very supportive of the campaign. For the actual festival itself, they buy toilet paper from our member companies, fire hydrants, other services that are pertaining to security. So that in itself is just a wonderful success story, and one of many. There are wonderful stories to tell of Sittler's Brew, Chirpa Streetwear, and many, many other member companies we all know and love. I'm sure I can say that on this call. We all know and love and celebrate and how wonderful they've been doing. But there are a number of success stories available on our website if I can encourage you to go and visit there. I see my camera was off. Apologies, everybody. I'm back. So, Nicolette, Financial Bunny, over to you.
Thank you very much, Janine. That is absolutely exciting. And I think when you think about how huge Delicious is as a festival, to know that Proudly South African is able to plug its members, it's absolutely fantastic. And we're looking forward to hearing more of these success stories. I think, honestly speaking, any SME that is on the line right now, any youth business that's online right now, this is, if you ever need
I just want to check if we lost Nicolette.
It appears so.
It appears so. Okay. Let me check if is everybody in favor if I just I'll just refer to the questions whilst we wait to get her back online. From an anonymous attendee, a question to IDC funding: is the funding a loan or grant that you don't have to pay back, or it depends on the deal one might get? Can I refer that? Oh, Nicolette is back. Nicolette, I was just sorry, in your absence, the anonymous attendee that sent a message, I just asked that question. If I can hand back over to you.
I appreciate that, Janine. Thank you very much. Yes, if I can just answer that question around the food services or food businesses that are funded.
All right. Thank you so much. I saw the question on the chat. No, unfortunately, we do not fund in food and retail. Basically, retail and services, we don't necessarily fund. I've also said on the chat, if you are processing food, I mean, I know there's a young man we funded who is producing a sauce, sauce, like your Nando's kind of sauce. So we do fund those kind of. But if you are a service business, maybe retail, unfortunately, we cannot fund. The reason is simple: is that our mandate is to industrialize and is to fund the industries. So obviously, restaurants and service businesses do not fall within the industrialization. And then the other question is about whether our money is a loan or a grant or combination. So we don't necessarily provide grants. We provide interest-bearing loans. I think I must also mention that I remember that I did not even talk about the pricing of our money. So if you are a young person and you want to get money from IDC, from the Pro-E Youth scheme that I spoke about, if the business is owned 50%, by 50 plus 1% by AM person, you will get an interest rate of prime less 3%. And then if it's youth participation, meaning that the young person owns 26%, you'll get a prime minus 2%. And then I have also said that we do take equity and provide equity. So we will obviously provide equity and then and then expect a return from that particular the investment that we made. So we do not necessarily provide grants. So the money from IDC will have to be repaid. But as I said, that we try to make it as concessional as possible for young people. Thank you, Nicolette.
Just a follow-up question, Mr. Nkuta. That rate, is it a fixed rate or is it linked to the market?
It's linked to prime, meaning that if we give you it's prime less, that's why I was saying it's prime less 3%. So depending on the prime lending rate, it will be that rate minus 3%. If it's youth owned, meaning that is 50%. If it's youth participation, 26%, it will be prime less 2%.
Fantastic. And we've got a question coming in for Proudly South African. Just before that question, Janine, I want to find out from Paul, what type of data and research does FNB do around youth businesses, and what insights can she share that obviously influenced how they tailored their programs?
So like I said, in terms of how we roll out our programs and how we design our programs, we take a partnership approach. So what we would do is then we will identify a business development partner that specializes in whatever field in which or area of expertise we're trying to solve for, or whichever sector we're trying to solve for. Then we partner with them in designing the program. So we don't specifically have data in terms of research that we've done. However, for the youth one, for instance, we work very closely with Fetola, and we would then rely on their expertise in this area and craft a program hand in hand with them.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Janine. I see you've answered that question, but maybe for the benefit of everybody else, the question is, somebody's asking that they are in farming, so they grow their own plants and they have animals also. What type of benefits could they get from being part of Proudly South African? Janine, if you can just jump on and answer that one, please.
Sure, thank you for that. We're all about connecting our member companies to possible buyers. So if you are making a product or growing something that a retailer would want to buy fresh produce from, we can lobby for the retailer to assist and to buy from you. But we can also, if you are possibly needing to be introduced to players in the agro-processing field, we can also assist you in introductions to our partners. And also there are a lot of programs that Proudly SA is involved in, localization programs, including master plans, which there is a master plan in that space. We can definitely introduce you to the players to assist you in supporting your business. Thank you, Nicolette.
Thank you so much, Janine. There's also a question that's come up quite a number of times in the Q&A. It's a question around where can you rewatch the recording. It will be on the Proudly South African YouTube channel. So after this, you will be able to find that recording right there. And if you are interested in the presentation, please just let us know and we'll get the team to collate them and send the ones that you are looking for. Just another, maybe perhaps a question for yourself, Roger. We are looking forward, obviously, to the new book that you are currently writing. What can one look forward to in terms of the support they can get from the book in terms of starting a retail business?
Well, nice open-ended question. Okay, so now obviously the book has been based on my 11 years in retail, plus a number of other industries that we've been involved in. And my business partner, who unfortunately passed away early in the year, had spent over 60 years of his life in the retail space. So we split the knowledge and experience and the legacy that he left into two main focuses. So the book that's currently on Proudly South Africa is aimed at financial aspects of retail, home-based, and micro-manufacturing businesses. And the second book specifically focuses on operational skills for retail businesses. So how to choose a location, how to design the store, sort of sample job descriptions, how to do merchandising and display, a lot of the practical things that you can't go to varsity and learn. You have to either be in retail or work in a retail environment to learn those skills. So the purpose of the book was to take the knowledge and experience that the corporates have with regards to retailing and put that in the hands of the small entrepreneur. So the spaza shop, the sort of food truck owner, the little startup independent business, the little boutique shop. It's there as a full spectrum of knowledge from A to Z, literally. And it's done in a simple and easy to understand language so that you don't get confused or complicated or overwhelmed by strange terminology. We've tried to keep terminology in the language quite simple. And we've also tried to make it as practical as possible. So we have in the first book a whole section on formulas for success. So if you don't know how to work out what a departmental contribution is, there's a formula that shows you how to do it with an example. So you can refer to the book and use it as a tool to measure, monitor, and grow. But you can also help, as I mentioned earlier, to be able to train an employee in your business as part of the upliftment. If they show aptitude in a certain area, they'll be able to learn a skill that they can take with them into any other businesses that they operate. The idea behind it was to identify individuals in your business, whether they're family members or employees, that show aptitude in retail, that want to learn. You can teach them things from the book, and then eventually they could potentially help you start a second business. So basically cookie cuttering your current setup elsewhere. But just from a statistic point of view, I love statistics. Stats SA released something in 2015, so it's quite an old stat. They say that 2.1 million new businesses were registered through CIPC in 2015 alone. That's a lot of new businesses. Now, granted, a lot of them wound up being shelf companies, so they never actually started, but the companies were still registered. Two very scary statistics. One, 85% of those businesses did not last past the first 12 months. And they say less than 50% of those that made it after the first 12 months, didn't make it to the end of the second year. So there was a huge drop-off in those businesses. They further went to investigate and realized that of all those 2.1 million businesses, 70% of them claimed that they did not keep effective records. And of that 70%, 41% said that they didn't know how to keep records. As a result, they never did. And no wonder the number of failures in small businesses and startup businesses is so high. And that's something we really want to try and address by saying, this is where you need to start. This is what you need to do. This is the next step for you. And then plug in to the wealth of experience and expertise sitting in the room, your IDCs, your FNBs, your Proudly South Africas. I'm a Proudly South Africa member. We've just signed up for our second year. This is the third opportunity this year alone that we've had to promote and market our business. And we're hugely grateful to Proudly South Africa and looking forward to upcoming events and synergies and partnerships and giving away books and doing whatever we need to do to try and make South Africa a better place for everybody.
Thank you so much, Roger. Absolutely love that. It sounds like you're putting together a comprehensive toolkit and stress test box for retail business in South Africa. And I think a lot of us, I mean, if you remember back to where you come from, retail has probably been one of the first businesses that many of us get introduced to. Your family either had a spaza shop or your parents were selling something. I remember my grandmother was selling ice blocks and kotas. So you almost start there. Many of us, our relationship with business kind of gets shaped even at a young age through a retail type of business. So it's great to see that you guys are putting together a toolkit that will essentially help businesses be able to do that. Paul, if I can just bring you back in, the DTIC has given us their terms and conditions in terms of interest rates that they charge on or rather that they are requesting from their business partners that they're going to be funding? What does it look like for FNB? Is it on a case-to-case basis, or is there a standard that you follow?
Okay, so I'm going to speak on behalf of the ESD offering. So from an ESD perspective, we've got different rates. So we've got what we call so the stuff that we do on balance sheet. So we've got an offering with what we call supply development contributions to first strand suppliers that are F&B clients. So typically early stage businesses would, because of the risk associated with their business, they would typically get charged a prime plus rate. However, as an enterprise, as a supply development contribution beneficiary, their facilities can be priced at prime. And that's the benefit that's the ESD benefit that we provide to first strand suppliers that are F&B clients or have facilities with F&B. And then then we've got one with the supplier development mezzanine loan. The pricing there is also priced at prime. And then on in Vumela, that pricing is determined on risk and the risk profile and the length of how long the funds would be outstanding. So that one is case by case. It's not really specific. It's not really generic. It's specific to the actual entity that's being funded. Hope that answered.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Paul. And while I have you on the floor, I may as well ask, in terms of, Anonymous wants to find out, what are usually the term agreements for these kind of funding, and how is their payment structured? Is it a monthly payment, bi-yearly, or how would you guys structure it? And I guess that question can also go to Mr. Ngota from IDC.
Yeah, so it really is case by case, depending on the loan instrument. With the supply development contribution, with the mezzanine loan funding option, that one is really, and that's why we call it patient capital, because that one we really can tailor it to what we see the forecasted cash flows of the business will be. For instance, let's say we are providing you funding to set up a new production line, and once the funding is dispersed, it will take you about 6 months before you see any form of cash flow. We'll basically tailor the repayment profile or the amort schedule towards what we're seeing from your projected cash flows. Then you've got your standard term loans. That is a normal amortized loan structure where it's monthly repayments. And then we've got, so it really depends on which instrument is being applied.
All right, thank you very much, Mpo, for that. Mr. Ngota, how would it work with IDC?
Fairly similar to what Mpo has said. So we, if it's a loan, it will be paid monthly, depending on the business. And as I said, we can also provide payment holidays if your business requires, let's say, 6 months to set up and do all those. We will not expect you to pay during that period of a payment, like holiday or moratorium. So we will obviously let you not pay and then maybe pay after a year or so, but it's basically monthly. And then the loans the maximum term will be up to 7 years, so between 5 and 7 years. So that's where in terms of the loan, I mean, as Mpo said, if it's patient capital, then it will obviously be, we will wait for dividends and things like that if we have invested equity. Okay, Nicolette, there's a question here. Somebody's asking about cycling club. So no, unfortunately, Lerato, we do not fund cycling clubs. But what I can encourage you to do, we have a unit within IDC where we fund social entrepreneurs. So maybe this could actually fall within the social entrepreneur space. If you want, you can perhaps drop me an email. Let's see what we can do. Yeah, so it won't fall within the mainstream funding of the IDC, but as I said, we have a specific unit which deals with social entrepreneurs. Probably that would fall within that, and maybe we'll be able to assist.
Thank you, Mr. Nkuta. Janine, if you can just jump in and maybe answer the question live on the 500 membership for startups, but also there's a tag question that came in from Lerato under the cycling question, the cycling club question, where she'd also want to know, how does Proudly South Africa assist me in the service of running a cycling club to promote cycling as a form of mobility for student communities and workers?
Okay, thank you for that. Membership fees are payable annually. So if you sign up, say today, you pay today, your membership fee will be renewed next year the same time. So it's a once-off 500 ex-VAT fee that you pay, and then next year this time, I'm sure, touch wood, we're not going to be increasing anything. It should be 500 Rand again next year this time. With regards to a cycling club, if I would say we have not had a request such as this before, but for us, we don't sponsor any cycling club. So if you're a member of Proudly South African, you will be listed on our website for you to, for us to make to make known to the public that you are a member of ours. And we'll talk about you on our socials. If you've got a call to action on your side, perhaps you can have a drive, a localization drive in terms of, promoting buying local for the club, if that's your ethos. You can utilize the logo. So there are various ways that we can work with you in terms of promoting the cycling club. But it is a first of its kind. I mean, when we do work with other sporting not clubs per se, but with other sporting teams. I mean, we work quite a lot. Well, we have worked with rugby, for instance. So we asked that that the supporters' jerseys be made locally, and actually also the rugby players' gear is made locally. So they formal wear with the Blazers were made in Cape Town, and we made a big song and noise about that, which is wonderful. And then we also asked Bafana to do the same, because they've been renowned for not doing that. So there are a number of endeavors that we do in the sporting fraternity. And also maybe look out, there's a big war coming in Gauteng. We are not to say anything, but we're looking to partner the walk also. So watch the space for media. Don't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon. But thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Janine. We've come to the end of our Q&A. It's been absolutely fantastic. But before I let all the speakers go, if I can just ask you one more time to share your last thoughts, your parting shot, anything that will encourage our youth to go into business, to stay course of their businesses. And we'll start off with you, Roger.
Oh, and I thought you were going to pick me first. I think my nugget for everybody today is start where you are, use what you've got, and do what you can.
Fantastic. Start where you are, use what you've got. I love that. I love that. I think it's quite encouraging. We'll move on to Mpho. If you can give us your last parting shot.
I think I'll borrow from what Roger presented in terms of making sure your housekeeping is in order. As a lender, one of the places where we really become stuck is in terms of housekeeping, especially from a tax perspective. We've got a pipeline of a lot of deals that we could potentially fund, but because of that tax compliance not being in order, we're unable to assist until they sort that out. So keep your housekeeping in order. Make sure do not differentiate between your business account and your personal account. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Thank you very much, Mpho. Manyata, if I can ask you to come in next.
Thank you so much. All I want to say to young people is that I know we understand that they don't have capital, they don't have social capital, they don't have collateral. And sometimes it's very difficult for them to start businesses because of those, because obviously if you're a financier, you would want some kind of own contribution and so on. So I'm saying, and also to also say that manufacturing does not mean big business. Whatever you manufacture can actually manufacture in the township, doing whatever that you are manufacturing, and approach IDC so that we can help you. Yes, we do fund from R1 million, which is quite substantial. But if you have a smaller business, please do approach Small Enterprise Finance Agency. They are our subsidiary, which provides loans to smaller businesses. And when your business is ready to obtain funding from IDC from R1 million, please do come to us. And I encourage young people to really look at these opportunities. I mean, if you young people would really go for small, call them tenders or purchase orders and so on to start, which is good. But at the end of the day, you need to grow your business to ensure that it's sustainable. You are a manufacturer. And yeah, I think that's all I want to say. Nicolette, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity. We really appreciate it. Thank you to Proudly South Africa for making this opportunity to engage with young people. And to the young people who have attended, I'm already receiving emails. So so yes, I've just responded to one email now. So thank you so much. Please do keep contact. We are here to assist you and to ensure that you succeed in business. Thank you.
There's nothing I love more than a proactive youth, and this is fantastic. And I think that's been the theme of today, right? Is every single speaker here has been open to sharing their contact details, to really wanting to hear from each and every single one of you. And to close it off, I'm going to ask Janine to please send us a parting shot.
Thank you so much. I was thinking about some advice to give. I think what I would like to say is join Proudly South African, become a member, but make the membership work for you. And I think this holds true for life also. You become a member and now you're asking, so what? This is not a doctor-patient relationship. You don't go to, the doctor doesn't phone you up to ask if you are sick. It doesn't work that way. You must phone us if there's a special need that you have, and we will, in as much as we can, assist you with that. We might not be able to do everything for you, but we certainly have partners such as these on our call today to refer you to, so that you can make the best out of the situation that you're finding yourself in. So please become a member and play open cards with us. Be open, and you never know what lies around the corner. It could be something very, very exciting, and stay positive. Thank you.
Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. We've had such a great session this morning. And I know for a fact that each and every single one of us is leaving the session feeling really fulfilled, but most importantly, itching with excitement to take our businesses to the next level. If we're going to be fighting unemployment in South Africa as the youth of South Africa, this is exactly where we start. We partner and collaborate with partners that have an intention to help us grow our businesses. So to you who is here with us, I say thank you very much. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you joined us this morning and we appreciate that. But also good luck. Join Proudly South African. They've got your best interest at heart. They are the guys that are going to really catalyst your business in terms of showcasing you across South Africa and, of course, the globe. So with that, thank you very much. Do not forget to please share any nuggets that you may have on our social media platforms using the hashtags buy a local, create jobs, and of course, youth in business. And if you have missed anything in this session, do not worry, we will have the recording on our Proudly South African YouTube page, and you can go and share it with more people, because for some people, they may not have been able to be with us today. And with that, thank you very much to our speakers, our esteemed speakers and guests. You guys have shared some of the most invaluable information. Sometimes we think we know until we hear the information and we realize, actually, this is where my gap was. This is what I can jump onto right now. So we really do appreciate, and we're hoping that you will again answer our call when we do come knocking. Thank you very much. My name is Nicolette Mashile, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.